You have to understand, true genius needs a conduit, a vessel. Some people are just vessels, and I'm so grateful for my little vessel. The words hung in the air, amplified to 1,000 people in the ballroom, the spotlight catching the smug, theatrical sincerity on Xavier's face. The massive screen behind him projected his grin, 10 feet high. A wave of polite, confused applause rippled through the audience. All I could feel was the cold weight of the Creative Vanguard award he held, an award for work he didn't do. The camera found me at our table, and I managed a tight, unreadable smile. Later, as champagne flowed around him, he found me by the exit. I looked him in the eye, my voice perfectly level. Enjoy your moment, Xavier. We met at a design conference in Des Moines, of all places, bonding over lukewarm coffee and a shared disgust for corporate sans serif fonts. He had the kind of restless, magnetic energy that made you feel like you were at the center of the universe. He was the big-picture visionary. I was the quiet one who could actually build the things he dreamed up. Our first real project was a boutique hotel, the Alastair. I remember us working until 3 a.m. in our tiny shared studio, the air thick with the smell of old pizza and fresh ink, mapping out the hotel's entire digital identity. We were a perfect team. First red flag was when he insisted on presenting the final pitch to the clients alone. He said I was too close to the technical details, that he was better at selling the dream. He came back with the contract, and I was so thrilled we'd won that I let it slide when the press release mentioned only his name. The next 2 years were a blur of success. We formed a company, Xavier & Co. My name, he argued, didn't have the right ring to it for a luxury brand. He was the face, I was the engine. We landed Viridian Skincare, a tech startup called Pivot, a dozen others. I was the one pulling all-nighters, coding interactive websites from scratch, refining pixel-perfect brand guides until my eyes burned. He was the one taking clients to dinner at Per Se, flying to inspiration summits in Tokyo and Milan on the company's dime. He started calling me his secret weapon, his engine room. It was meant as a compliment, but it felt like being locked in a basement. I rationalized it. We were building something. The imbalance was temporary. Sacrifices would be worth it. The illusion shattered on a Tuesday afternoon in May. An email landed in my inbox by mistake from our accountant. The subject, Ray, Project Solitude, Q2 bonus. Attached was a payment confirmation for $12,000, wired directly to Xavier's personal account. Project Solitude was the Viridian Skincare digital campaign, a project I had conceived of and executed entirely by myself while he was on a 2-week sabbatical in Bali. I hadn't even known he'd given it a name. My heart didn't race, it went still and cold. I didn't confront him, instead I started digging. For 12 weeks I lived a double life. By day I was his loyal engine. By night I became a forensic investigator. I used a data recovery program to scan our shared servers' deleted files. I set up a script to quietly log file access. I cross-referenced invoices with project timelines and bank statements. Truth was worse than a single stolen bonus. Xavier had created a shadow accounting system. For every major project, he would issue 2 invoices, a smaller official one for our shared business account and a much larger one from a shell LLC I'd never heard of that went directly to the client. He was siphoning off nearly 40% of our revenue. It had been happening since day one, since the Alastair. The breaking point was the Creative Vanguard Awards. Our work for Pivot, my work, was nominated for Digital Experience of the Year. Of course, only his name was on the submission. Insisted I come, saying it was our night. We were seated at a prime table with our biggest client, Mr. Sterling from Pivot, and a reporter from Design Weekly. When they announced his win, he kissed my cheek like a magnanimous king. He strode onto the stage, and then came the speech. His voice, dripping with false humility, boomed through the ballroom. He talked about vision, about artistry, and then he looked right at me. You have to understand, true genius needs a conduit, a vessel. People are just vessels, and I'm so grateful for my little vessel. The camera zoomed in on my face as he said it. In that moment of blinding public humiliation, as the applause washed over me, all the anger and hurt crystallized into a single cold point of clarity. The plan began to form, and I noticed one tiny detail that would become his undoing. The whole ceremony was being live-streamed, the recording archived on the awards website forever. The next morning I called Ms. Vance. He was a notoriously sharp intellectual property and fraud attorney whose office was as minimalist and severe as her reputation. She listened to my story without a single flicker of emotion, her fingers steepled. Emotion is a liability, she said when I finished. Data is a weapon. Let's build our arsenal. The retainer cost me $15,000 of my personal savings. We spent the next 2 months in methodical preparation. My nights were filled with documenting everything. 217 fraudulent invoices from his hidden Dropbox folder. Server logs showing my IP address as the sole author on 95% of the final project files. Email chains where he forwarded my completed work to clients with notes like, "Here's what I just finished whipping up." We found transaction records from the shell company to his personal accounts. The one close call came when he glanced at my phone and saw an email notification from Vance Law Group. My heart hammered, but I smiled casually, just helping a friend with her divorce paperwork. He nodded, already scrolling through his own phone, too self-absorbed to care. The final perfect piece of evidence was an ironic gift from Xavier himself. The name of his secret shell company, the one he used to steal over $87,500 from me, Vessel Creative. Ms. Vance let out a low, satisfied hum when I showed her. "Poetic," she said. "Juries like poetic." The trap was a meeting he set himself. Been pushing for a Q3 strategy review with our biggest client, Pivot, eager to bask in the post-award glory and upsell them on a new contract. The meeting was set for a Thursday in their glass-walled boardroom on the 40th floor, overlooking the entire city. Xavier walked in beaming, ready for a victory lap. Mr. Sterling and two of his VPs were there. I was there. And beside me sat Ms. Vance, whom I introduced as special counsel for our company. Xavier's smile tightened. He didn't see the storm coming until it was already overhead. I opened. "Xavier, we need to discuss the real financial structure of our partnership." He started to bluster, something about creative overhead, but Ms. Vance cut him off. She slid a single, pristine folder across the vast mahogany table to Mr. Sterling. It was the Vessel Creative Ledger. She walked them through the double invoicing scheme, her voice calm and factual. Xavier's face went from confused to panic. He stammered about accounting errors, a misunderstanding. Then came the second wave. I plugged my laptop into the room's projector. Instead of a slide deck, the screen filled with the code repository for their award-winning project. I showed them the commit history, a digital log of every single change. My name was on hundreds of entries timestamped over 6 months. Revised UI framework. Integrated new API. Final build. I scrolled to find Xavier's contribution. There was only one. A single entry from the day before the launch, where he changed the hex code of the copyright text in the footer from dark gray to black. The room was utterly silent. Mr. Sterling stared at the screen, then at Xavier, his expression a mask of cold fury. "Get out," he said, his voice dangerously low. As Xavier stumbled toward the door, he shot me a look of pure venom. "You ruined me." I met his gaze without blinking. "No, you were just the vessel." The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Pivot terminated their multi-million-dollar contract that afternoon, citing fraudulent billing. Design Weekly, tipped off by an anonymous source, ran a scathing retraction of their profile on him, detailing the fraud allegations. The Creative Vanguard Committee formally rescinded his award. Facing a lawsuit he couldn't win, Xavier agreed to a settlement. The judgment was for $124,000, covering the stolen funds, my legal fees, and damages. His reputation was radioactive. 6 months later, I saw him through the window of a trendy coffee shop, one we used to hold client meetings in. He was wiping down the espresso machine, his shoulders slumped in a way I'd never seen before. He wore a stained apron. He looked diminished, a ghost in a place he once owned. I walked on. I used the settlement money to open my own studio. It's small, just a bright, airy loft with my name on the door. Sterling and Pivot were my first client. The work is good, and the quiet I feel at the end of the day is better. It's not the buzz of victory, but the profound peace of a house that is finally entirely my own. Last week, a potential new client asked me about my process, trying to pin me down. "Are you the visionary," he asked, "or the technician?" I smiled. "I am the architect, the builder, and the house itself."